Hi, hello. Welcome to Swiflearn. And let me tell about myself. I'm Aishwarya A. I'm the English online tutor. So let's start our session. So before starting, let's see the Swiflearn key features. So Swiflearn as a yes, our key features are like we have maximum 6 students in the class, and we provide detailed progress reports, and live interactive face-to-face classes are provided, and we also take unlimited practice tests. We also have other key features, that is Swiflearn academic test series, that is SATs, is being conducted, and we take unlimited practice tests, and subjective tests for school exams are also being conducted. And so what are you waiting for? So now we can all subscribe to our channel. You can press the bell icon, and you can never miss any update. So please do like, comment, and share for our Swiflearn online YouTube channel. Fine. Okay. So why are we here? So let's learn verbs. Okay. So by the end of this session, what we all will be learning. So let's look in detail. Okay. So by the end of the session, we'll be learning the definition of verbs and the types of verbs and how verbs can be used with tenses. Like how verb count changes, like when subject changes, what are all the verb count that are being changed, and finally we'll also be learning what auxiliary verbs. So shall we start? Yes. Hello. Okay, shall we start? And now here we have the definition for verb. Okay. So what is a verb? Yes, students, any idea? Can anyone guess what is a verb? Yes? Okay, so let me tell you what is a verb. A verb is a word that describes actions or a state of being. Okay, so what are actions? Actions are nothing but verbs, right? Yes. So whatever we do, like whatever actions we do, that is said to be called as verb. Okay? So we have another definition just below that. Like verbs are words that give the idea of action, that is of doing something. For example, I speak to you now, right? It's an action. So speak is the verb there. So we will see the about verb in detail. And we also have some other examples there. So we'll look at that in detail. For example, words like run, fight, eat, and work are all convey actions, right? Okay. So run is an action. Running is an action. And even when we fight with others, that is an action. And when we are eating, when we are doing work, it's all called as action. So these are the words that describes action, and those words are said to be called as verb. I hope is that clear? It's very clear, right? It's very simple as well. So verb is nothing but an action. But some verbs do not give the idea of action. So what they can be? Any idea? Yes, students? Okay, fine. So let me tell you. Some verbs, they do not give any idea of action. So they give the idea of existence. That of we call them as the state of being. Something exists. So in that case, we say that as state of being. Okay. So we'll see that also in detail. Fine. Okay. I hope the definition for verbs is clear, right? Yes. Okay. The definition is very clear. That is, verb is nothing but an action. But do we want to know about the types of verbs? Yes. It's very necessary when we talk about verbs. So we have 4 different types of verbs. Okay. So let's see them in detail. Like, what are the 4 types of verbs we have? The first type is the state of being verbs. As we have already said, something is existing, that do exist. So that type is called the state of being verbs. Second type is called the action verbs. Okay. And the third one is called the modal verbs. And the last one is called the helping and the main verbs. Okay, fine. So We'll move on to the first type, the state of being verbs. The state of being verbs is otherwise called as verbs of being. Okay. So verbs of being express a state of existence. When something exists, for example, I am Aishwarya. Okay, so I exist here. So that's why we say that verb. Now there, in that example which I have given, I am Aishwarya. So am is the state of being there because I exist. Aishwarya exists. Fine. So we have other examples like am, is, was, were, will, be, being are some of verbs of being. Fine. I hope this is very clear. I'll repeat it again. Okay. Yes. Am, is, was, were, will, be, and being or some of the verbs of being, otherwise called as state of being verbs. So in other words, the state of being verb identifies who or what a noun is, was, or will be. That is, what is their actual thing. What they actually do is that they modify according to the subject in the sentence. For example, if we are talking about a boy who is single, okay, so we can use the verb that is a state of being verb called is. So if the person, if the noun is singular, we'll be using the verb accordingly. And the same thing, if the subject is plural, we'll be using the state of being verb accordingly. Okay, so we'll see them in detail. Right? Okay, now we have the examples. Fine. So let me read the first example. Aditi is a chef. I mean, I hope you all know the meaning of chef, right? Who is a chef? Any idea? Yes. A chef is one who cooks, right? Yes. Professionally, who cooks is called a chef. So Aditi is a chef here. So Aditi is a single person, right? So it's a singular noun as well. So what do we use? We use is. The state of being verb we use here is. Sam is a hard worker. Okay, Sam is a person who does hard work. So that means Sam is a single person. He's just only one person. And so we use is. The state of being verb which we use here is again is. And Pansy was always an early riser. Okay, so was always. So it was just happened in the past maybe. So that's why we are using it a state of being verb as was. And they are hungry. And here we have are, which is again a state of being verb. And why do we use are here? Yes. Any guess? Why do we use are here? Yes, they. They means persons who are more than one. Okay, two are more than two. So that's why we use are. Okay, I am tired is the next example. So I am tired. Whenever we have an I, we use this verb am. Okay, so I always goes with am. Clear? So we don't want to use is or are or in the present tense with I. Okay. I always goes with am in the present tense. Fine. I hope this is clear. Students, it's clear? Yes, okay, fine. Okay. So now let's move on to the second type of verb. I hope the first type of verb is very clear, the state of being verb. And the second type of verb is the action verb. Okay. So what are the action verbs? Yes. What are the action verbs? Okay. So here is the definition. The students just note it down. Everyone, please note it down. Okay. So action verb is a verb that expresses physical or mental action. Okay. So whenever we are doing some physical or mental action, we use that verb called as what? Action verbs. Action verb always tells us like what the subject or the sentence is doing physically or mentally. I can give another example like I am teaching, right? You are listening. So we are doing something physically or mentally. So that verb like teach, I am teaching. So teach is the action verb there. You are listening, listen is the action verb there. Okay. So that verbs which is doing, which is doing some action physically, either physically or mentally, is called as action verbs. I hope the second type of verb, that is the action verb, is very clear to you in the definition. Fine. So now let's go on to the examples. So each and every definition will be having some examples. So when we are looking at the examples, even the definition will be very clear for us. Okay, that's clear. So yes, let's move on to the examples. Marigold walk walk to the school. Okay, Marigold walk to school. That means Marigold is a person like who is going to a school by walk. So walk is the physical action that she was performing. So the second example is John wants a cheeseburger for herself. Okay, so wants. He wants a cheeseburger. That means he wants something like some action is being done what? Mentally. Fine. So he wants something. He needs something. So that is the action verb again. And we have another type of example. Sorry, we have another example that is, will you help me with my homework? Help is a physical action again, right? So doing help to other, like we are active physically, doing some action physically, and that action verb here which comes is help. Okay, so in this slide, like we have three action verbs for your better understanding: what, once, and help. Okay, so that's clear, everyone. Everyone, is that clear? Yes. Okay. So we'll move on to the next thing. Okay. So in the action verbs itself, we have two types. So it's very important to learn about those types as well. So in action, whenever we do some action, we name the term called verb. Okay, and that kind of action verb is having two types. It has two types, which is transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Okay, and again, transitive verb is classified into two other types: active transitive verbs and passive transitive verbs. Right? So again, I repeat you, action verbs is classified into two types: transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. And transitive verbs is again classified into two types: active transitive verbs and passive transitive verbs. Okay, so it's very simple, right? Yes. So let's move on. Okay. Now we'll have the definition for the transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. So whenever we are going detailedly studying into the types, it is always important to learn and know about the definition, the meaning of those words. Okay. So that's why we have two different definitions for transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Fine. Yes, the transitive verb. So let's learn about the transitive verb first. What is a transitive verb? A transitive verb is a verb that denotes an action which passes over from the doer, a subject, to an object. So usually in a sentence, we have a subject, a verb, and also an action, and also an object. Okay. So the action which passes from subject to the object is called the transitive verbs. Okay. So let's see the example to make this very clear. John likes apples. So here the action is likes. Fine. So it is passing from the subject John to the object apples. And that's why we call this as the transitive verb. Okay. And we have another example. So let's look on that. My sister cooks all our meals. So here the subject is my sister and object is meals. And what we are doing, like we are using a transitive verb, which is an action, cooks. Okay. So what is happening here? The cooks is an action which is passing from the subject sister to the object meals. Fine. So that's why we call this as transitive verb. Okay. So I hope this transitive verb is clear to everyone. Yes, hi. Hi everyone. Okay, fine. So let's move on to the intransitive verb. Okay. And the definition for intransitive verb is an intransitive verb is a verb that denotes an action which does not pass over to an object or which expresses a state or being. Okay. Intransitive is just an opposite type to the transitive verb. I hope it is clear because in the transitive verb, the action passes from the subject to the object. But in the intransitive verb, the action does not passes to the object. Okay, so that's why we call this as a state or a being. Okay, fine. So the examples are here. Okay, by reading the examples, the definition will be much more clear. So he ran a long distance. Right? He ran a long distance. So here it's an action, right? And ran is the intransitive verb. There is a flaw in this diamond. Okay, flaw is again intransitive verb, which is not passing from a subject to the object. And again, the baby sleeps. So sleep is the intransitive verb here, right? And it is not passing from the subject to the object. So we call this as also intransitive verb. Okay. I hope this transitive verbs and intransitive verbs are very clear to you. The transitive verb is one which is passing from the subject to the action, subject to the object, and the intransitive verb is something is an action which is not passing from the subject to the object. Okay. Okay, so action verbs can be either transitive or intransitive in nature, right? How we can identify whether it is transitive or intransitive? Any guess? Yes, depending on its usage in the sentence. Like how we use that verb in the sentence, it depends entirely upon that, whether it is transitive verb or an intransitive verb. So we must always notice that the transitive meaning and the intransitive meaning sometimes may differ. Okay, and now we have some other examples in the transitive verbs. The pilot flies the plane very well. Okay? The boys play football on weekends. My mom runs her own bakery. Okay. So here we have the subject pilot in the first sentence. Okay. Flies the plane very well. Okay. So here it is moving. The flies, that is the action, it is moving to the where? To the object. That is the plane. Okay. And that's why we call this as transitive verb. And the second, in the second sentence, the boys is the subject, play is the verb there, and football. So the action is passing from the subject to the object, and again, play is the transitive verb here. And finally, the third one, my mom runs her own bakery. So here, what's happening? Like run is an action which is passing from my mom to own bakery. Okay, and that's why we call this three sentences as transitive verbs like flies, play, runs. So these three words are called transitive verbs that is based on the usage in the sentence. So that should be remembered. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Now we'll move on to the intransitive verb. What is intransitive verb? Any guess? Yes. So intransitive verb is nothing but the action from the subject will not pass to the object. Okay. That is called the intransitive verb. So eagles fly high in the sky. Okay. The boys play in the yard on weekends. Okay. My mom runs in the park for fun. So here fly, play, runs are called as the intransitive verbs. Right? So now let's move on, like how verbs changes with subject. Because verbs keeps changing with the subject, and we have to understand that very clearly in order to make and construct sentences. Fine. Okay. So subject is singular, s added to the verb in present tense. So when a subject is singular, what we do? We used to add s to the verb in the present tense. Okay. So now we have the example here. She reads, he prays. Okay. She reads, he prays. So she is singular, and so we have added s to the action, that is the verb read, and it becomes she reads. Okay. He is a singular, again, singular subject, and pray is the verb there. So as it is singular subject, what we are doing? We are adding s to the verb. So s to pray becomes praise. Okay. Okay. We'll move on to the second thing. If subject is more than one, only verb form in the present tense. So whenever we have more than one, two or more than two in the subject, what we do? Yes, any idea? Yes. What we do is we don't add any s to the verb. So only verb will be present in present tense. So here we have they. They means what? Like they means more than one person. Right? They, we, these, or all the pronouns we say them as plural, right? So they means more than one person. So what we do? We don't add any s to the verb. They read, they swim, right? And now, in the past tense, we use was for singular objects, singular subject, and we use were for the plural subject. Clear? So in the present, I again repeat it. In the present tense, if the subject is singular, we add s to the verb. And if the subject is more than one, we don't add any s to the verb. And in the past tense, we use was for the singular subject and were for the plural subject. So this is said to be called as what? Subject verb agreement. Okay. The verb and subject should get agreed based on its singular or plural verbs. Okay. So now here we have she was baking. So what we said, that it is past tense and it is singular. So we are using was here. They were eating. Okay, they is a present tense and it is also plural. Sorry, they is also a plural pronoun, and so we are using were here. Okay, is that clear? Okay. So again, I repeat you. She was baking. She is singular. Okay. So we use was. They were eating. They is plural. Okay. So they is a plural word, and that's why we use were they in past tense. So that's clear. Hope this is clear, everyone. Okay. So if this thing is clear, like we can move on to the other thing, and it will be very easy to make sentences using verbs. Okay. Yes, hi. So someone said it's not clear. Okay. So let me explain this again. Okay. How verbs changes with subject. So if the subject is singular in the present tense, we add s to the verb. Okay. She reads, he prays. Okay. And again, if the subject is more than one, if the subject is plural, only verb form will be present in the tense. That is, we don't add any s to the verbs. Okay. They read, they swim, we read, we swim. Clear? Okay. So now the present tense is over. Right? And now we have the past tense. If the subject is singular in past tense, we use was. Okay. If the subject is singular in past tense, we use was. And if the subject is plural in past tense, we use were. Okay. This is said to be called a subject-verb agreement. That means the subject and verb should get agreed. Okay. For example, again I repeat you. If the subject is singular, the verb should be what? Was. Okay. If the subject is plural, the verb should be were in past tense. So I hope this is clear, students. Yes, can you reply? So this is the basic thing, like how verbs changes with the subject. Okay. Now this is clear? Okay, fine. So now we have some exercise. So let's practice. Okay. So she uh, took in bracket the test. So let's see whether this is transitive or intransitive. Okay. So she took the test. Here she is the subject and test is the object. So the action is took here. So this will be definitely what? Transitive verb. Okay. Harry caught the ball. Okay. Here in bracket we have catch. Based on the tense, we'll be changing it as to what? Caught. So Harry is the subject there. Ball is the object. The action passes from the subject to the object. So Harry caught the ball, and this will be what? Intransitive verb. Fine. And here, make. Smell the pastry. Pastry is the object. I hope everybody like pastry here. Yes? Okay. So usually it's our tendency to smell the pastry when we receive it, right? Yes. So that's what here the person make is doing, like make smell the pastry. Okay. So here the subject is make and pastry is the object, and the action smell is passing from subject to the object. Fine. So here also we call that as what? Transitive verb. Okay, fine. And finally we have Sam. Sorry. John finally leave. So John finally left can be the answer. Okay. So John finally left. There is no action like there is no subject passing to the object. And so what we are doing, like this can be the intransitive verb. So let's check for the answers. Okay. And final sentence is Sam played the video game. Or we can also say Sam will play the video game. Sam plays the video game, whatever it is. But the action is passing from the subject to the object. So this can also be transitive verb. So let's check for the answers. Yes. So the answers will right. Okay. Okay, fine. And let's move. Okay. By the way, do you know how many types of tenses we have? Yes. So we were looking at the types of verbs actually. So, but it is also important for us to know about the types of tenses, like how many types of tenses we have. So let's look at it. The tenses we have what? Present tense, simple like present tense, past tense, and future tense. Okay, these are the types of tenses we have in basic. So let's move on to the next thing. And the verb is again said to be called as regular verbs and irregular verbs. So what are those regular verbs and what are irregular verbs? Any idea, students? Yes. What can be regular verbs and what can be irregular verbs? Okay. So let's look at the regular verbs first. Okay, let me explain you. Okay. To form the past tense and the past participle of regular verbs, we will add ed to the sentence. Okay. Yes. When we are adding ed to the sentence, I mean ed to the verb, that is called the regular verb. Okay. So here we have accept and we have added ed with that accepted. Okay. The past tense and will accept will be there in the future. So let me tell you another example. Play. So what can be the past of this regular verb? What do we do to make it past? We add ed, right? So played. Okay. So this is also a regular verb. So accept, walk, play. These are all some of the examples for regular verb. Okay. So let's move on to the irregular verbs. Okay. Irregular verbs are verbs in which the past tense is not formed by adding the usual ed in ending. I mean, when in the regular verbs we add we have added ed to the verb and we have made that as the regular verb. Okay. And in the irregular verbs, we don't add any ed. Okay. The words keep changing for past and also for the past participle. For example, we are having two examples here. Right? The first one is awake. The past tense, we change the irregular verb as awoke and awoken in the V3 form. Okay. This is said to be called as V1 form. The awake is V1, awoke is the V2, and awoken is the V3 form. Okay. Present, past, and past tense. Okay. Okay. And now we have another example: drink, drank, and drunk. So here in this verb drink we don't want to add any ed with that. Okay. Instead of adding ed, we have to change that to drank. So these types of verbs or the words which denotes the actions are called as the irregular verbs. So let's have a recap again. Regular verbs is something where we add ed to make it as the past tense, but in the irregular verbs we don't want to add any ed with that. Okay. So these are the differences between the regular and the irregular verbs. Okay, and finally we have the types of tenses. Is even verbs change with tenses. What are those tenses? Before moving on to that detailing, we have to see what are those tenses. This simple tense, continuous tense, and perfect tense. So simple tense. So let's look at the simple tense first. We have here a definition for that, like when a specific period of time is referred. Okay? Whenever a specific period of time is referred, we say that as called as simple tense. And an example is we have I ate. Okay? So actually, eat is the action here. Okay? In all the examples we are going to see in this slide, we are seeing that on the base of eat. Eat is the verb or the action here. So in the past simple, it will become I ate. Okay? In the present, it is I eat, and in the future, as we all know, in the future we will be adding a will with the verb. So I will eat. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Hi guys. Hi everyone. Okay. So the second thing is progressive tense. Okay. When reference to action that is progressive. So what can be this progressive tense? It looks a bit different, right? What is that progressive tense? Any idea? Yes, students? Everyone? Yes. Progressive tense is otherwise called as continuous, which we use in form. So we say present continuous, we say past continuous, future continuous. So that is called as the progressive tense. Okay. So it is another name given to the continuous tenses. Progressive tense is otherwise called as continuous tense. So here, in past, I can say I was eating. Okay? That action eating was continuing in past for some time. So then we call that as what? I was eating. In the present, I am eating. As I mentioned earlier, like I always goes with am the present. So I am eating. And in future, I will be eating. Right? So in the continuous tense, the main thing which we have to notice is we'll be adding ing. Okay. So let me write it down here. We'll be adding a ing in the continuous or the progressive tense with the verb. Okay. If it is eat, we say that as eating. If it is play, we say that as playing. Okay. And based on the tenses, if it is past, it will be was playing. If it is present, it will be are playing or am playing. And if it is in the future, it will be what? Will be playing. Okay. So I hope this is clear, student. The simple tense and the progressive tense are clear, everyone. Okay. So now let's move on to the perfect tense. I hope we'll move ahead, right? Okay. So now let's see what is a perfect tense. A perfect tense is something which refers to an action that is continuing over time. Okay. Maybe if it is in the past, it may be started in the past and ended in the past itself. If it is in the present, it started in the past and ended in the present, and if it is in the future, like it will be starting in the future and also will be ending in the future. Okay, so fine, let's see some examples to make that clear. In the past perfect, what we do, I had eaten. The main verb is eat. Okay, and the perfect tense, what we had in the past, and the v3 form. Okay, subject plus had in the past and v3 form, eat, ate, eaten. Clear? Okay. And the present perfect, what we do? I have eaten. So in the past we add had, and in the present we add have. Okay. I have eaten. Fine. Eaten is a V3 form. And in the future, I will eat. Okay. So these are the three tenses, like based on which the verbs also change. Simple tense, progressive tense, and perfect tense. Okay. So we have seen the examples for past simple, present simple, future simple, and also past progressive, that is otherwise called as past continuous, present progressive, present continuous, future progressive, future continuous. Okay. And also the past perfect, present perfect, future perfect. So these examples are clear, I hope. Is everyone clear? So shall we move ahead? Yes, moving ahead. What do we have here? Is anyone? Yes. So, uh, whenever we are changing the tense, right? For each and every tense, the verbs will also be changing. Like, let's have the rules for that. And once this rule is very clear to you, it will be very, very easy for you to change the tenses based on the verbs. Okay, and to change the verbs based on the tenses. Okay. So now we have the example here. Okay. The rule is, like in the past tense, we will be adding ed, right? In the present tense, what we will add, yes or es based on the words. Okay, and in the future tense, what we'll do, we will add a will. Okay, a will before the verb. So now we have the examples here. The word is play. That is the verb or the action we are going to say is play. Okay. And in the past tense, what we do? We add ed with the verb. So play, ed, played. Okay. And in the present tense, we add s or es. And the word is play here again. So plays, plays, plays. And again now, the future tense. What we'll do? The future tense, we will add the will with the verb. So it will become what? Will play. I hope this is very simple and very, very easy. I guess. Everyone clear? Again, I repeat you. The past tense, we add ed with the verb. And the present tense, we add s or es with the verb. And the future tense, we will add a will before the verb. Okay. So moving ahead, we have some examples and let's make this thing. Okay. So here we have three verbs: call, listen, yawn. So shall we try making them in all the sentences? I mean, in all the tenses. Okay. And here, what can be the verb? So the verb can be call, right? So in the past tense, they have added ed, right? Call, call. And what will be in the present? Either call or calls. And in the future, it will be becoming what? Will, call, right? So now we have listens in the present tense. So what can be the verb here? Verb will be what? Listen, right? And what will be in the past tense? listen, because we'll be adding a ed in the past tense. And in the future tense, what we'll do? Yes, student. Yes, what we will do in the future tense? We will add a will in front of the verb. So it is will listen. Okay. Yes. And now we have another verb, yawn. So what is yawn? Yes. Before sleeping, whenever we used to yawn, right? Whenever we feel sleepy, we do yawn. Yes. And that is the word and the meaning for yawn. And let's try this in past tense. What can be the word? Yawned. Okay. It is yawned. And in present, it will become what? Yawns. And in future, we will add a will in front of that verb. So before that verb, so it will become yawn, will yawn. Okay. So calls, will call. And if listen is the verb, we say listen in the past tense, and listens in the present tense, and will listen in the future tense. And yawn, yes, yawned in the past tense, yawns in the present tense, and will yawn in the future tense. And one thing is should be very clear, that is this calls, listens, and yawns, which are written in the present tense, is based on the subject. The subject is singular, as we have seen already. The subject is singular. What we do? We add yes. And if the subject is plural, for example, Geeta and Sita, okay, or they, or we, what we have to do? There we have more than one person, so we should not add any yes there. Okay. So I hope this is clear. It's very simple, right, students? Yes. Can you reply to me? Yes, that's very very simple. And once the rule is very clear, you can easily make the sentence and change the verbs. Okay. And finally, we do have the auxiliary verb here, right? Yes. So what are auxiliary verbs? Auxiliary verb, or otherwise called as helping verbs. Correct? Yes. Auxiliary verbs are otherwise called as helping verbs. So let's look at the definition in detail. Auxiliary verbs are verbs that are used before the main verb of the sentence to express the action and the state. Okay. So these auxiliary verbs, as the name suggests, they are called as the helping verbs. It is actually the verb of the auxiliary verb is nothing but it is used before the main verb. For example, I can say speak, teach, write, read are all the main verbs because they indicate the action. But these auxiliary verbs are used before those words. For example, I am sleeping. She will sleep. Okay. So we use some words before the main verb. So those words are called as the auxiliary verb. So let's look at them in detail. Okay. So we have three most common auxiliary verbs. Okay. They are be verb, do verb, and have verb. So these are called as helping verbs. Okay. So we have the examples here. I am leaving. So here, as usual, like we all know, it's very familiar. Leaving is the helping verb, right? No, leaving is the main verb, correct? Because leave is some action that we are performing. So leaving is the main verb there. And can you see any word which is there in front of before this main verb? Yes, it is am, right? Am. Am is the word we have before this main verb. So here, am is the auxiliary verb. Fine. So leaving is the main verb and am is the auxiliary verb. He has arrived. So here, arrive is the main verb. Correct. Arrive is an action. So it is called as the main verb. Okay. And which word is standing in front of the main verb? Has. So obviously, has is the auxiliary verb here. Fine. Okay. So now the final example we have here is, do you run? Okay. So yes, students, can you tell me which is the main verb here in the last example? Is everyone? Do you run? Which is the main verb? Yes. Run indicates an action. So run is the main verb there. And which is the word which is standing in before the action? Yes, you is a pronoun and do. Okay, do is the auxiliary verb there. So as we have already seen, being, do, and have are the three most commonly used auxiliary verbs. Okay. So we'll go to do, does, and did. So do is common for forming questions and making negatives. That is the usage of do. So when do we use did? Okay. So did is nothing but did is the past tense of do. Okay. And does. So do we use for plural and does for singular. And if do and does is used in the present tense. So did is used in the past tense. Okay. Do and does is never used for past. We should never use do and does in the past. So only thing we have to use in the past is what? Did. Okay. For example, I do my homework now. Okay, now I do that. So I can use do there. So do I know you? I'm asking in the present. Right? So what I've used? Do. And I'm asking, did he finish his homework yesterday? Or did he finish his homework this morning? Okay. So he finished or not already. So that's why I say that I use the word called did. Okay. Because did we use for the past tense. So do for present tense, does for present tense, and did for past tense. I hope this is clear. Everyone? Students, everyone? Yes. I hope this is very clear. Right? I again repeat you like do and does are used in the present. Okay? And do is commonly used for forming questions and also making negatives. Do I know you? Right. And did is used in the past tense. Do and does is never used for the past tense. Okay. So now move on to the next one. Be verb. Okay. Be auxiliary verb. This is an auxiliary verb. Be is an auxiliary verb, right? Yes. So be is again three types: am, is, are. Okay. So be can be used as an auxiliary verb or the main verb in the sentence. So be is also used to make what? Passive. So whenever we are changing the sentence or voices from active to passive, we use be. That is the main word in the passives. Okay. And is. We'll see about this. Is tells that an action is happening now at present. For example, she is listening to me. Okay. Or we also use this when going to happen in the future. Okay. So we have some examples. Are is used with they and we. Whenever we have more than one person, that is plural, they and we, okay, so we use are. Example is they are excited. Okay. We cannot say they is excited because this is a singular word, right? Right? Yes. And was is used as the past tense of am and is. And were is used as the past tense of yes, you, we, and they. Okay, fine. This is clear. I again repeat, like we can be used as an auxiliary verb and also the main verb. Fine. So we is also used to make the passives, the passive voices, especially. And the second one is this. This tells like this tells us that an action is happening now. Okay, present. And are is used with they and we. More than two or more than 2% use are. And was is used in the past singular. And where is used in the past plural, like you, we, and they. Fine. This is clear. Okay, and we have another auxiliary verb, third one, which is have. Okay, have is used to make the present perfect tense It is always followed by the past participle. So past participle, like we say verb 3, right? V3 form. Those are called as the past participle. So have is always used to make the present perfect tense. Okay? And also for saying the possession. I have an oven. Okay. I have an oven. Correct? I possess something. I own. Okay. So there we can also use have. Has is used for the third person singular. So I is the first person, you are the second person, and he, she are the third person. So whenever we are using he or she or it, we can use has. And the thing we should not forget is what? We have to use it for third person singular. Okay. So he has eaten the dinner. As I have said, we can use has with what? He. He has eaten the dinner. Had is used in the past tense. Has in the present tense and had in the past tense. Okay, especially when we use is the past perfect tense. Okay, fine. So now we are having some exercises. So let's try. It's very interesting. Students, before going on to the exercise, like I just want you to, I want to know that the exercises and the examples we have seen are clear. The previous slides. It's right. Yes. So in that case, we can do the exercise confidently. Yes. So let's start doing our exercises like completing the following sentences. John dash writing an article. John is a singular person, right? So we can use John is writing an article. Okay. So Sam dash to return next year. Sam is a singular person. Okay. So what we have seen is we can also use this in future. So here obviously what will be coming? Yes. Yes, the answer is what? Sam is to return next year. So John is writing an article. Sam is to retire next year. They dash moving forward. Definitely we will not have will here because with will we have this simple plain verb. So here we are having ing. So what we do is are having they are moving forward. Okay, they are moving forward. They this plural word. So we use what? Are. Okay. The dinner dash being cooked. Dinner is being cooked, has been cooked, will be cooked. Dinner is being cooked. Okay. So they dash being questioned. They again. So when we have they, we used to use what? Are. Okay, they are being questioned. So John is writing an article. Sam is to retire next year. They are moving forward. The dinner is being cooked. They are being questioned. I hope this is clear. Okay, students? Okay, fine. So this is very clear, right? So it's very easy as well. Okay, and finally we have modal verbs. A modal verb is a type of verb that is used with other verbs to indicate obligation, ability, permission, request, capacity, suggestions, order, or advice. So whenever we have these kind of things like ability or we want some permission or request or when we want to make some suggestions or sometimes we are ordering some person or we have to advise someone, there we use the modal verbs. So this modal verb, what it does is that it modifies the main verb. Okay. Some of the examples of modal verb are what? May, must, can, would, could, and should. Okay. Okay. So auxiliaries, the auxiliary verbs and the helping verb or the helping verbs, it indicates the moods as well. Okay. The function, if it is the ability or permission, we can use can as the modal auxiliary verb, and in the negative we'll be using what? Cannot. And past ability or past permission, we can use could as a modal auxiliary verb and we can use could not in the negative. And if we want permission or possibility or request, So there we use may as the modal auxiliary verb, and in the negative, obviously it becomes what? May not. And necessity. When we have some necessity, there we used to use what? Like need as the modal auxiliary verb, and need not as the negative auxiliary verb we use. Okay, so now we have some examples again. So I think after reading these examples, it will become much more clear. I can speak a little Russian. Okay, I can speak. I am telling what? Yes, I am telling my ability. Right? So you can see in the slide. Yes, ability. So we use can. Can I open the window? Like I'm asking permission. So what I do? I use can again. I may be home late. That means, yes, I am telling the possibility. Okay, so may I sit down? I'm asking the permission. So I use what? May. I must eat now. So must, what we do? When we use must, whenever it is compulsory, like whenever it is going to happen definitely, there we use must. She must be over 90 years old. Okay, you should stop smoking. Ordering. Okay, would you like have a cup of tea? Would you like to have a cup of tea? Yes. So would is asking for permission. If I were you, I would say sorry. So where we use would, yes. Whenever we are saying another condition, so there we use would. Okay. So now we can choose the correct model verb. We have the exercise here. It's again very interesting. So students, was that clear? The previous examples, was that clear? Yes? Okay, fine. So let's move on to the exercise. So make Dash go to school as she is better now. Make need to go to school as he is better now. Okay. So Jenny Dash can or used to take her sister to school this term. Jenny used to take her sister to school this term. Okay. Their mother Dash come fast so that they don't miss the train. Their mother should come fast so that they don't miss the train. The little boy Dash be afraid of going to the school. The little boy need not be afraid of going to the school. And Matthew come today as he had promised to. Yes, Matthew. Yes, students, can you try the last one? Matthew Dash come today as he had promised to. Matthew may come today as he had promised to. Okay. Yes. So Meg must go to school as he is better now. Fine. Okay, so I hope these modal auxiliary verbs are clear, right? So shall we move on to the next thing? Yes. So it's very interesting, right? The word of the day we have here. So usually by the end of our session, we'll be having the word of the day. Like each day we'll be learning each word. So that will make us to improve our vocabularies. It's very interesting, right? And today we have the word berew. Okay, berew. We can pronounce this as what? Berew. So meaning is branch, department, division, or a government agency. The meaning of the word berew is what? Branch, department, division, or government agency. Okay. So how we can use this? The educational bureau demands that all schools introduce a new course into the curriculum. That means what we can say? The educational department, right? So I hope the meaning of the word bureau is clear. The educational bureau is demanding one, introduce a new course. So educational department is the meaning there. I hope the word of the day is very interesting and you would also have learned what? A new vocabulary. Fine. So that's great. And here we are ending our session today. And I hope the entire thing we have seen in the verbs is clear to you. So thank you for everyone for attending the session. And yes, so here we stop our session. Yes, thank you.